Incredible twist. Young girl holding "Marry Me" sign changes everything for CEO after 30 days. Lily stood outside the towering glass front of Reynolds Corp., the summer sun glinting off the skyscraper. Clutching a sign that read "Marry Me," she felt like the biggest dreamer in the world. At just 10 years old, she didn't fully understand what she was asking. All she knew was that things were tough at home. Her dad had just lost his job, and her mom seemed more worried every day. Could a whimsical sign really pull a powerful CEO into their world? Jack Reynolds, a figure of towering success but painfully lonely, looked out his office window and choked on his coffee. A little girl, adorably plucky, stood beneath the massive corporate lettering. His instincts told him to dismiss it as just another quirky moment, but something inside him twisted. Maybe it was the simplicity of her idea, or perhaps it was the heartache glimmering in her wide eyes. She called out to him without words, a plea for connection in her family's spiraling saga of struggle. "What is your name, kid?" Jack found himself asking, half amused as he strolled outside. It wasn't his usual routine to engage with passers-by. "Lily," she chirped, her smile stretching wide. In a flash, she shared her dreams of being a businesswoman. "I want to help my family. I want to make enough money so my dad can smile again." Jack blinked, caught in her fervor. Her little voice, full of pure determination, cut through the chaos of spreadsheets and quarterly reports that usually clouded his life. Here was a child unencumbered by the complexities of wealth, yet deeply tied to the struggles that came with it. As they chatted, a small crowd began to form. People paused in their busy lives, exchanging glances and murmurs. It was a strange scene, a moment of unity sparked by a 10-year-old girl with wild ambition. Unbeknownst to them, this brief interaction would lead to unexpected mentorship. Jack felt a spark, part inspiration, part guilt, as Lily told him about her hopes. "I want to create a candy store," she declared, giggling. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. That innocent conversation set off a chain of events. Jack began to mentor her in the weekend moments he could spare, rekindling the passion for creativity he'd lost amidst the corporate grind. They planned mock business strategies over pizza and soda, laughing until it hurt. Jack's heart warmed when he saw the spark in Lily's eyes. But soon, the reality of Jack's world crept back in. The stark lessons of corporate ethics knocked at his conscience like thunder. As he learned about economic inequality from Lily's unfiltered perspective, things began to shift inside him. How had he become so detached from the families his company affected? Just when it seemed they were building a wholesome bond, betrayal loomed closer. Jack faced the pressures from board members who cared only about profits. Would this rift unravel everything he had come to cherish in their fleeting friendship? Tension hung heavy in the air as he pondered the stark rifts within his firm. In that moment, the pursuit of wealth no longer felt right. But could Lily's simple heart truly bring him the redemption he craved? As Jack looked toward a future filled with opportunity and a choice to embrace love rather than corporate success, troubling whispers of betrayal flickered through his mind. Would he rise to meet the challenge? As the sunlight began to fade, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Jack found himself spiraling through a storm of thoughts. In a world where numbers ruled and profits defined success, here was Lily, her innocence challenging everything he believed. The little girl who wanted to open a candy store wasn't just a kid, she was a light piercing through the fog of his corporate existence. He decided to keep his promise. The next Saturday, he arrived at a small park, a place filled with the laughter of children playing and the scent of blossoming flowers. Lily was already there, her golden curls bouncing as she raced towards him, a treasure map she had drawn clutched in her hands. "Jack, I made this for our business plan," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. Jack knelt to study her artistic version of Candy Wonderland, complete with rivers of chocolate and mountains of marshmallows. It was a fantasy, pure and delightful, and as he laughed, He felt a crack in the armor he had worn for so long. Together, they brainstormed, filling the air with giggles and sugary dreams. But the weight of his responsibilities loomed large. As they played, Jack tried to block out the murmurs from his boardroom. The investors were restless. Profits were down, and the pressure to increase shareholder value was unrelenting. Each time Lily's laughter rang out, a knot twisted tighter in his stomach. "Why do grown-ups frown so much?" Lily asked suddenly, her brow furrowed in thought. Jack hesitated. "They're worried about money, I guess. But money can't buy happiness, right?" she said, tilting her head. There was a wisdom in her words that shook him. How had he lost sight of that? As they wrapped up their meeting, Jack noticed the shadows stretching longer across the park, a sign that their time together was coming to an end. Lily looked up at him earnestly, her tiny hands resting against his arm. "Jack, you really think we can make it happen?" "Absolutely," he replied, feeling a warmth swell in his chest. Yet the reality of the corporate storm brewing inside his own world weighed heavily on him. How could he share his truth without breaking the spirit of a 10-year-old who just wanted to make her family smile again? As the weeks rolled by, their meetings continued, but so did the pressure at work. Jack found himself torn between two worlds: the life he had committed to and the life Lily was inviting him to explore. Each decision became harder, especially with whispers of betrayal surfacing within the company. Would he stand by the little girl who inspired him to dream again? Or would he allow the corporation to pull him back into a suffocating normalcy? One night, Jack received a call from his board. They wanted to implement cutbacks, the kind that would affect families like Lily's. It struck him cold, the thought of being responsible for someone's pain. His heart raced out of fear and anger. He thought of everything Lily had shared with him and how far they had come. "Jack, you need to take action," a voice in his mind urged. "Stand up for what matters." But at the same time, the worry nagged at him: was he really ready to challenge a system designed to protect profits above all else? The following day, he met Lily in the park for their scheduled afternoon. She was beaming, holding a beautiful cupcake in her hand. "This is the flavor for our candy store, vanilla with rainbow sprinkles," she announced, her face alight with hope. Jack smiled softly, but inside, a tumult brewed. As he watched her face, he knew something had to change. "Lily, what if we did something bigger?" he suddenly blurted out, adrenaline coursing through him. "What if we stood up together for families like yours?" Her eyes widened, luminous with excitement and curiosity. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath, realizing the weight of what he was proposing. "What if we fought for change? For your dream and the dreams of everyone struggling?" Just as a flicker of hope ignited within him, a commotion broke out across the park. A group of protesters had gathered, holding signs demanding corporate accountability. Jack's heart raced. This was the moment he had been waiting for, or had he just stumbled upon chaos? What would happen next? Would he have the courage to join them? Would this be the turning point for him and for Lily? Jack stood at the edge of the park, his mind racing. The sight of the protesters, filled with determination, was both exhilarating and terrifying. He squeezed Lily's little hand, which felt so reassuring and warm against his own tumult of feelings. "What do you think we should do?" he asked her, half expecting her to be swept up in the excitement. Lily's eyes sparkled with wonder. She took a step closer to the rallying crowd, her cupcake still clutched in her other hand, oblivious to the weight of the situation. "Can we join them? We could make a sign, something fun." The thought made Jack's heart thump louder. Here she was, ready to face the world head-on, uninhibited by the fears that bound him. "Yeah, we can definitely make a sign, but we need to be careful. This isn't just a game, Lily." "I know," she exclaimed, pulling him toward a folding table where protest signs were set up, scattered with markers and colorful papers. "Let us make one that says, 'Candy for Happiness.' It'll be perfect." Jack couldn't help but chuckle. "Candy for happiness, huh? That's a strong message." "Absolutely," she insisted. "If people see it, maybe they'll realize they need to smile more." As they crafted the sign, Jack weighed his choices. Could he truly stand against the corporation he had served for years? The thought of possibly losing everything, a comfortable salary, A stable future was terrifying. But watching Lily's enthusiasm, he felt a small flame ignite within him. How could he deny her this moment of hope? Once their sign was complete, they joined the crowd. Lily held it high, her cheeks flushed with excitement. The words seemed to resonate with many, and soon other protesters began to cheer for her message, chanting it back at her. Jack felt a swell of pride watching her shine against the backdrop of serious activists so fearless, so pure. "Look!" Lily shouted, pointing to a speaker at the front of the crowd. "They're talking about how people can't pay their bills anymore because of high profit." Jack leaned in, heart racing as he listened. The speaker's passionate words echoed his own fears about cutbacks at his company. Every fact threaded through Jack like a needle stitching the ragged fabric of his conscience. This was real. Families were struggling, including Lily's. The weight of reality crashed down on him. Perhaps this was his calling. He had been overlooking people in his quest for success. Suddenly, a roar erupted from the crowd. A local news crew had arrived, cameras rolling, capturing the very moment when Lily proudly shouted, "Candy for happiness." With adrenaline pumping, Jack grabbed a spare sign and held it up next to Lily's. But instead of the usual corporate jargon echoing in his mind, he found himself thinking aloud. People deserve better. No cutbacks on families. Lily turned to him, eyes bright. "Jack, you're doing it." The energy around them crackled with something more than just anger, it was hope. Just when Jack felt a surge of possibility, he noticed a woman approaching the podium, her face lined but determined. She was holding up a sign that read, "Change is coming." There was something familiar about her as recognition dawned. Jack's breath caught. "That's Ms. Taylor. She was my mentor." He felt a pull to approach her, to explain what he had seen there and let her know where he stood. But just then, Ms. Taylor's voice boomed through the crowd, silencing the murmurs. "I've seen enough profit-driven decisions leading to lives lost and dreams shattered." Jack's heart raced. This was a moment he had been waiting for, not just for him but for Lily, for everyone who believed in hope and dreams above dollars. What if he could join her, become part of the change and not just a silent observer? "Lily, let us do this together." As Jack and Lily began to push forward, a loud cheer erupted, igniting the crowd like wildfire. The moment was electric, yet uncertainty still loomed as they stepped forward. Could they make a difference? Would they regret this leap of faith? The answer felt closer than ever, but danger flickered at the edges. Just then, a figure emerged from the back, eyes fixed on Jack with a look of anger that sent a chill down his spine. It was a familiar face, one he had thought would always stand by him. "Jack, what are you doing?" His heart sank. Would this person tear down the fragile hopes he had begun to build, or was this the pivotal moment that would define their futures forever? Jack's stomach twisted as he turned to face the figure approaching with such intensity. It was Greg, his former colleague, someone who shared his office, his lunches, and, for a time, his dreams of climbing the corporate ladder. "What are you doing here, Jack?" Greg's tone dripped with disbelief and anger. "You can't be serious." "I am serious, Greg," Jack replied, trying to calm the fluttering in his chest. "Look at her, look at all of them. They're fighting for something real. I can't just ignore this anymore." Lily didn't seem to grasp the gravity of the situation, her eyes wide with eagerness, ready to spread their message further. "Can we make them smile?" she asked, still holding their sign like a beacon of whimsy in the midst of discontent. Greg's face darkened. "You think this is a joke?" He shot back. "You really want to throw it all away for this nonsense? Our jobs depend on those profits." Jack felt his heart hammering. Was Greg right? Was he standing on the verge of losing everything he'd worked for? But looking down at Lily, her innocent enthusiasm was a reminder that the future was about so much more than a paycheck. "I can't back down now," Jack said firmly, turning his back on Greg. The crowd was swelling, voices rising in unison, many more holding signs emblazoned with messages of unity and change. A surge of energy pulsed through him. This was bigger than him, bigger even than Lily. It was about standing for what was right. "Come on, Lily. Let us join them," he declared, his voice cutting through the din. The two stepped into the thrumming heart of the protest. For a moment, Jack felt a sense of belonging, an odd camaraderie with strangers fighting the same fight. This was a people's movement, a chance for the unheard to finally have a voice. As they marched, Jack noticed Ms. Taylor climb atop a makeshift stage. "This is our moment," she yelled, her voice resonating through the park. "We refuse to be silenced any longer. We are here to demand justice. Together, we can bring about the change we need." Jack's blood surged with hope. This wasn't just about candy, it was about a sweet future for families, a time when no one had to sacrifice joy for survival. "Look, Jack." Lily tugged at his sleeve, pointing towards a man handing out flyers. "They're talking about forming a coalition. If we join in, we can help. This is the change we need." Jack nodded enthusiastically, tilting his head towards Lily. It felt like a weight lifting. He was ready to dive in. With newfound resolve, he approached the man, eager to learn more. "Hey," Jack called out, excitement bubbling in his chest. "How can we help?" But just as they stepped forward, the crowd was suddenly silenced by a loud crack. A large red banner emblazoned with a message demanding corporate accountability unfurled in front of them. Gasps echoed, followed by angry shouts. A group of counter-protesters had arrived, wielding their signs of opposition and chanting slogans designed to belittle the protesters' cause. Jack's heart sank. The energy of hope morphed into panic. He searched the crowd for Lily, instinctively grasping her hand tighter. "Stay close to me," he whispered, fear creeping into his voice. The cheers had turned to jeers, and he could feel the tide turning. "What is wrong with you people?" one counter-protester shouted. "You're hurting our economy." The tension hung thick in the air, and Jack could feel the fear surging. Every eye seemed to be darting between the two groups, the air crackling with uncertainty. Was this about to erupt into chaos? Just then, a familiar face emerged from the chaos, a figure he hadn't seen in years. The sight filled him with conflicting emotions. Would this person help turn the tide? Or would they add to his mounting worries? Jack's breath caught in his throat as he took a steadying breath. This moment could change everything, but would it bring hope or despair? Jack tried to focus on the familiar face cutting through the crowd. It was Sarah, his college friend, her blonde hair pulled into a messy bun that spoke of long hours spent in activism. They had spent countless nights discussing their dreams of a fairer world over fast food and cheap coffee. What were the odds of her being here now? "Jack!" she shouted, her face breaking into a hopeful smile. There was an energy about her, as if she could harness the chaos around them. "I didn't expect to see you here. What are you doing?" His voice barely made it over the rising noise. "This is dangerous." "It's necessary," Sarah replied, determination etched into her features. "We can't let them drown us out. You have to find your voice again. You've always had it in you." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. The last thing he wanted was to lose his footing in the corporate world while trying to stand for something beyond himself. But looking at Lily, holding the sign decorated with crayon art, he knew there was no turning back. "Yeah, but what if I lose everything? Isn't it worth risking it for something real?" she asked, her gaze piercing through his uncertainty. "You wanted to make a change once. Have you forgotten that?" Before he could respond, the counter-protesters amplified their chants, the sound echoing off the trees. Jack squeezed Lily's hand tighter. He felt small, vulnerable against the tide of aggression. "I don't know if I can do this." Suddenly, a loud crash from behind jolted his thoughts. A protest sign had been ripped from someone's hands, thrown to the ground in defiance. Frightened murmurs replaced the chants as members of both sides edged closer, the atmosphere thick with animosity. "Stay close," he urged Lily, who was now staring wide-eyed at the unfolding chaos. He felt a pang of dread grip him. Was he putting her in danger? Then, just when everything seemed to spiral out of control, he noticed Ms. Taylor again. She had just broke the silence that enveloped the crowd. "We're here for joy, not hatred," she shouted, raising her voice above the commotion. "We're a community, and no one will divide us." Jack felt the spark of inspiration flicker within him. If Ms. Taylor could rise to the occasion, so could he. "We need to stand together," he called, joining in. But another loud noise cut him off. A child's voice rang through the crowd, sweet yet powerful. Can you all just be happy? He turned to see Lily climbing onto a bench, holding her sign high above her head. Let us make them smile. A wave of puzzled laughter rippled through both sides, momentarily breaking the tension. Jack grinned. In that unexpected moment, he saw the ice cracking. This was hope. Lily's innocent message reignited something deep within him. Come on, Jack shouted, stepping forward. Let us show them what joy looks like. He felt Sarah by his side, echoing his sentiment. Together, we can drown out the anger. Together, joy is louder. A chorus of curious murmurs began to rise from the crowd. Jack realized that sometimes, all it took was a slightly innocent voice and a hint of courage to turn the tide. The crowd began to sway, their attention shifting back from confrontation to compassion, yet just as the atmosphere began to shift, he felt something darker looming ahead. The counter-protesters were shifting in their ranks, their leaders eyeing the two sides with a menacing glare. This isn't over, Jack whispered to Sarah, the weight of the moment taking hold. What's their next move? Just then, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket. It was a message from Greg, you need to come back. This isn't the end. Jack's heart raced as the reality of his situation pressed heavily on him. Was he truly prepared for the battle ahead? Or would he be drawn back into the world he was trying to escape? As he stood there, surrounded by both fear and hope, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to shift once more. Would they find a way to unite? Or were they on the brink of something much more dangerous? Jack's gaze was fixed on Lily, her little face alight with determination. Her sign bobbed above her head, the art all her own. If she could stand tall, then maybe he could, too. The laughter from the crowd was a balm, soothing the tension that lingered like a thick fog. He felt the weight of Sarah's presence beside him. She was his anchor in this storm of chaos and confusion. Let us chant, Sarah suggested, her enthusiasm a beacon amidst the rising anxiety. Jack nodded, gathering the courage he thought he had lost long ago. Joy will win, he shouted, the words escaping his lips more easily than he expected. The crowd echoed him, a wave of voices bouncing back with newfound energy. Jack felt his heart lift as they began to form a collective pulse, shifting from division to unity. But the smell of fear lingered. The counter-protesters, emboldened by their leaders, were clearly restless. Suddenly, a figure emerged from their ranks, a man in a dark jacket who raised his fist. Enough with the joy, he bellowed. You think a child can change the world? This is war. Jack's stomach twisted. The chant was losing its momentum under the weight of the threat that loomed nearby. Fear was creeping back in, biting at the edges of his courage. He glanced at Sarah and Lily. Lily, get down, he shouted, trying to block any way violence might escalate. But to his surprise, Lily remained steady, poised as if she had figured out a truth that he hadn't yet grasped. What if we really do show how joy can change everything? She said, tilting her head thoughtfully. Innocence radiated from her, reminding Jack why they were all there. He could feel it deep in his bones, the lightness that joy offered in defiance of hatred. Let us drown them out with love, he yelled, and at that moment, an idea sparked. Love is louder. The crowd caught on again, the words spreading like wildfire. Now, Jack led them in a new chant, fueled by energy and defiance. Love is louder, love is louder. But as they rallied, Jack noticed a flicker of movement from the counter-protesters. More aggression brewing. The leaders were signaling something to their ranks. He could see it on their faces, the tension coiling tighter, just waiting for a reason to snap. Why do they hate us? Lily's innocent question cut through the noise, pulling the energy back to the piercing reality they faced. His heart twisted with sadness. How to explain hatred to a child? Sometimes, people forget what it means to love, Sarah answered softly, kneeling beside the girl. But we can remind them. The very air around them seemed to hum with urgency. More tensions built as the two sides narrowed their distance, fists balled and faces grim. People were feeling trapped in a battle of wills. Jack's heart pounded in his chest like a drum, urging him to act. Suddenly, from the depths of the counter-protesters, one person stepped forward, a woman with dark hair and a fierce look. You think your love matters? She shouted, striding toward them. We will drown you out, But her words only inflamed Jack's resolve. It was as if the sheer force of their unity created a barrier against the anger. "Lily," he called, taking a breath and motioning for her to be ready. "Let us show them what love looks like." As he turned back to the crowd, every heartbeat echoed the mantra they were building together. But in the chaos, something clicked in Jack's mind, a realization he couldn't ignore. Was this more than just a protest? Were they not just fighting for a better world, but becoming the very change they believed in? The realization washed over him. He felt invincible for a moment. But then, before he could fully harness that power, a loud crash echoed through the air. A bottle flew through the crowd, landing dangerously close to where Lily stood. Jack's body went rigid. Fear swept through him like ice. What had he brought her into? Taking a deep breath, he faced her, ready to shield her from whatever chaos lay ahead. "We need to move, now." But just as quickly, a thunderous chant surged from the crowd. "Love is louder. Love is louder." His heart raced as he scanned both sides, the mix of emotions almost overwhelming. The fire within him sparked again, but would it be enough to shield them from the tempest that was coming? And at that moment, Jack knew one thing for certain: it was about to get much worse before it got better. What would happen when anger met their resolve? Jack's heart raced as he heard the bottle shatter on the pavement. The crowd wavered, the chant fading momentarily as shock rippled through the air. The atmosphere thickened with tension, ready to explode into chaos. Jack instinctively stepped in front of Lily, his arms outstretched, shielding her from the growing hostility. Sarah's eyes flicked to Lily, and Jack could see her fear mirrored in the little girl's innocent gaze. "Stay behind me, okay?" Jack said, forcing a smile in an effort to calm her. But inside, he felt anything but calm. The weight of the moment pressed down on him. Was he doing the right thing by bringing her here? A flurry of angry voices erupted from the counter-protesters, drowning out the earlier harmony. Jack's mind raced as he searched for a way to regroup their own side. He glanced at Lily, her wide eyes daring him to believe as she did, but threats loomed from the other side. "Let us show them," Lily cried, her outstretched sign catching the sunlight. That simple declaration rekindled something in Jack, a flicker of hope igniting his fear. "Okay, let's get louder," Jack shouted, drawing strength from Lily's unwavering spirit. "We can do this. Love is louder. Love is louder." The words felt like armor, and slowly, the chant began to swell again. But in the midst of the rallying cry, the dark-haired woman from the counter-protest marched forward, her eyes ablaze with fury. "You think throwing around love will change anything?" She spat, her voice slicing through the thrumming heartbeat of the crowd. "Love won't take care of what we need to fix." Jack opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came. Instead, he started to see her a person in her own pain, resonating with hurt and frustration. He couldn't help but think of how easy it was to demonize someone across a divide instead of seeing the humanity within. Suddenly, he found himself wondering if she carried the same worries about the future, the same desperation that compelled him to stand there. "Maybe you're right," he yelled, raising his voice above the tumult. "Maybe love isn't enough alone, but this isn't just about love. It's about the change we embody together." In that moment, Sarah joined him, speaking passionately, her hands emphasizing each point. "We're all here, seeking a better way, a brighter future. Children like Lily remind us of the dreams we had before life got complicated and painful." The counter-protesters fell silent for just a brief moment, confusion painting their faces. The chaos of raw emotion had drawn them in. Jack seized the opening, looking into familiar eyes across the divide, the dark-haired woman still fiercely determined, but her fists had loosened slightly. "Let us make room for each other," Jack pressed, his voice sincere. "Love can be our starting point. Anger gets us nowhere." But just as they seemed to bridge the divide, a loud crash erupted nearby, shattering the fragile peace. A police barricade had fallen, and shouts erupted again. It was chaos unleashed. Jack's heart lurched, flashbacks of a world burned by anger slicing through him. "Get back," he shouted, shoving Lily and Sarah behind a nearby tree as protests erupted into a frenzy. In the swirling confusion, Jack looked for familiar faces, but they were lost amid the chaos. He felt fire brewing in the pit of his stomach, a primal instinct to protect. The woman who had challenged him moments before stomped back into her ranks, her anger sparking renewed rage among her people. Lily gripped Jack's hand tightly, her small fingers trembling. "Are we going to be okay?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the roar. Jack nodded fiercely, though dread settled deep within him. "Yes, we will be. We just have to," but he couldn't finish his sentence. He felt the weight of 1,000 eyes, the fury escalating like a thunderstorm overhead. And as limbs thrusted, a wave of intolerance threatened to break over them. Jack stole a glance at Sarah, the fire in her eyes matched only by the fear. If they didn't act fast, things could go terribly wrong. The atmosphere charged, and Jack swallowed hard. Was this where it would all unravel? Or could they manage to turn the tide back to peace? Just then, a voice rose from the back, cutting through the clamor. "I want to stand together." It was another child, a boy in bright blue sneakers, his own makeshift sign held high, showcasing a picture of two hands coming together. Jack's pulse quickened. Perhaps there was still hope for a different story. But would others follow? As he looked around, he realized one thing. The next moments would hold the key to what would either break or make them all. Would they stand together, or would they stand alone? The chaos roared around them, but in that moment, Jack felt a shift. He looked back at the boy in blue sneakers, his heart swelling with a strange mix of dread and inspiration. If one child could rise above fear and conflict, maybe there were more like him in the crowd. "Lily, stay close," Jack called, eyes scanning the crowd. The heat of the moment pressed down, yet he could feel something gathering. It wasn't just anger anymore, there was an undercurrent of yearning, a desire for unity that flickered like a dying flame but was far from extinguished. "Everyone, listen," Sarah shouted, raising her hands high. "Look at this." She pointed toward the boy with the sign, letting the image of togetherness draw the crowd's gaze. "If we can unite behind love rather than division, maybe we can heal. That's what we need." The boy's voice broke through the din. "I don't want to be scared. I want to be friends." His small figure stood firm, a beacon amidst the turmoil. Jack smiled at Lily, her bright eyes shimmering with optimism despite the commotion. "See, we're not alone," he whispered, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze as he turned back to the crowd. As if sensing the shift that was brewing, people began to murmur among themselves. Jack felt hope pool in the pit of his stomach. The storm of emotions seemed to waver, just for the briefest of moments. But then came the thunder of boots, a wall of officers clearing the area, their expressions stern as they implemented a restraining order. The tension escalated again, the angry shouts returning with a vengeance. Still, Jack pressed forward, his voice rising above the rest. "Why can't we listen to the kids?" he shouted. "We're letting them down by fighting. They see what we've forgotten: togetherness." He glanced around, searching for allies. The dark-haired woman met his gaze again, uncertainty flashing across her face. He remembered her fury, yet now saw the doubt. When he called out to her, "What are our children learning from this?" Her jaw tightened, but she appeared hesitant to retreat into her anger. Just as the tide seemed about to turn, a bottle flew through the air, smashing against the pavement, chaos consuming them once more. Jack instinctively pulled Lily close and shouted for Sarah, and the crowd split like a wave around them. Jack felt himself being dragged into the turmoil, adrenaline coursing through him as he fought to keep both Lily and Sarah in close proximity. His heart thundered in his chest as he pushed through the sea of bodies, desperate not to lose sight of hope, the hope embodied in the children rallying for unity, their innocence shining through a fog of fury. Suddenly, a different shout broke through the shouting. "Stop!" A voice rang clear and commanding. A woman stepped forward, fear and anger fading from her features. She was one of the organizers, usually brimming with passion for the cause. Now her eyes were pleading, glistening with something that looked like regret. "Our children are showing us what we've lost," she cried, her voice steady amidst the raging tempest. "They want love, not hate." Jack felt a charge crackle in the air, a collective heartbeat swelling into a chorus of realization. It was a moment teetering on the edge, a pivotal choice all around them. "Now's our time," Jack thought, propelling himself towards the center. As the noise began to dim, all eyes turning, many confused, some intrigued, beneath all that clamor, the flame of unity flickered. Would they commit to it, or let it fade away just as swiftly? Would this moment be a catalyst for change, or a mere whisper drowned by the chaos? Jack inhaled deeply and prepared to speak once more, his pulse racing with the weight of possibility. But the question lingered in the air. Was it already too late to sow togetherness in a brewing storm, or could they seize this fragile moment of clarity to spark something greater? Jack stood in the center of the swirling mass, his heart pounding as adrenaline surged through him. The woman's words resonated, but they were a drop in a sea of chaos. He felt the eyes of the crowd shift toward him, a mixture of curiosity and desperation. In that charged moment, it became clearer than ever, he had to act. "Listen to the children," Jack shouted, his voice finding some strength. "They deserve our attention. They're showing us a path we've long forgotten, one of love and compassion." The crowd, still reeling from the shouting and chaos, hesitated. Jack saw the glimmer of doubt in their eyes, the familiar struggles reflected back at him. "Please, just take a moment and think," he continued, his voice softening, like a hand reaching out into the wild storm. "Each of us was a child once. What do we want for our kids? Do we want them to inherit a world filled with anger, or a world where they can dream and connect?" Lily squeezed his hand tighter, her small frame pressing against him. Jack glanced down, seeing her face lit with a mix of belief and fear. It fueled his determination. Suddenly, someone else in the crowd stood up, a girl no more than 10, clutching a colorful poster. It bore bright letters shouting "We're friends." In rainbow colors, her deep brown eyes wide and earnest. "I just want us to talk," she yelled, her voice cutting through the din like a ray of sunlight. Jack felt a wave of emotion wash over him. They were all human here. The burdens they carried were not so different. He pinched the bridge of his nose, trying to hold back tears, overwhelmed by the raw honesty radiating from the girl. In that moment, a shift occurred. An older man stepped forward, his brow furrowed, but his expression uncertain. Maybe she's right." The crowd began to murmur again, conversations trickling back into the fold. Hope surged in Jack. Could this moment really transform the chaos? Yes, Jack encouraged, feeling the atmosphere begin to warm with possibilities. "Let us listen to one another. Not with our fists or shouts, but with open heart." The dark-haired woman reached out to the girl, kneeling slightly to meet her eye level. "What do you think we should do?" she asked, her voice suddenly tender. "I want us all to be friends," the girl exclaimed, her face lighting up. "Friends can solve problems together." Jack felt a smile pulling at his lips. It was simple, but it felt right. Lily tugged on his hand. "Daddy, can we be friends with all the kids?" "Of course, sweetheart," Jack replied, ruffling her hair affectionately. "That's what we're working towards." As the energy in the air shifted, people around them began nodding, some wiping tears from their eyes. Jack saw the man from before nodding his head in agreement, the woman giving an appreciative smile to the girl, but then, just as things appeared to be turning, a loud crash echoed from the side. A group of individuals, clearly provoked, emerged from the crowd. Their faces were locked in anger, fists raised high. Jack's stomach dropped. Was this the moment everything fell apart again? "Let us give them a show," one man shouted, brandishing a flag adorned with divisive slogans. Panic threaded through the gathered crowd. Would this spark fresh violence, or would their newfound unity withstand the challenge? Jack felt the weight of responsibility crash heavily on his shoulders, an unbearable pressure hardening within him. He had to act. He couldn't allow the fear of a few to drown the hope now blossoming among many. "Friends," Jack called out, his voice ringing firm, "what path will we take now? Will we let anger drown out innocence, or will we stand together fighting for what our children dream of?" The answer hung in the air, heavy and uncertain, as tension filled the atmosphere again. Unity was a fragile thing, but in that moment, Jack couldn't let go of hope. Would he have the courage to step into that storm and protect what they had ignited, or would it all slip back into chaos? Jack's heart raced as everyone around him held their breath. It all felt like a balancing act, teetering on the edge of something beautiful or something catastrophic. The spark of community that had flickered to life hung by a thread, threatened by the roars of dissent. The dark-haired woman, her anger still simmering, took a hesitant step forward. We want change, but not like this, she shouted. What's the plan? Jack's mind churned with urgency. We stand together, he called, driven by a deep instinct to protect the fragile harmony growing around him. Every one of us wants a future, for ourselves and for our children. We can't let fear tear us apart. Let us channel our energy into building something amazing. Lily's hand felt reassuringly small in his, and he felt a pulse of determination ignite within him. Lily, what did you want to do with the candy store? He asked, hoping to weave her innocent dreams into their cause. Make everyone happy, she exclaimed, her eyes alight with passion. Candy makes people smile. And right there, among all the chaos, laughter erupted. A few adults chuckled, recognizing the simple truth in her words. Exactly, Jack shouted, encouraged by the responses around him. Let us build a place for joy, where everyone can come together. Maybe we can create something not just for profit, but for our families. Candy-shaped hope. The playful imagery resonated, smiling faces slowly emerging from behind clenched jaws. Candy Wonderland. A voice piped up. Another child held a sign showing a flowery tree with candy blossoms. Jack seized this momentum. See? It starts with the children. Let us make the future they dream about. More voices joined him, and finally the adults grasped the essence of Lily's innocence. They clustered closer. The anger of the counter-protesters seemed to wane amid the inspiration brewing among them. As the dark-haired woman turned to her comrades, a softening in her fierceness began to show. Can we come together to ensure this vision? She asked tentatively, her voice barely above a whisper. It's worth fighting for. Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. Our children are showing us the way. We need to listen. Love is louder. Jack felt the crowd shifting like the tide, and hope surged through him like a breath of fresh air. Yes. Let us create an alliance. Let us build a coalition we can be proud of, founded on love, understanding, and laughter. Another voice echoed in agreement, and then another, until the chants began to rise once more. Candy for happiness. Love is louder. The energy in the crowd began to swell, the tension easing as people embraced the collective vision. The children, the source of the movement, gleamed in their innocence, their laughter ringing like a bell through the air, breaking barriers of age and beliefs. Jack glanced at Lily, pride swelling in his chest as she stood tall like a little leader among her friends, her heart pure and unwavering. This is our moment, he called, reaching out to the crowd. Let us bring our ideas together and create something that will protect our families. As cheers erupted around him, he felt the moment solidify, a symphony of voices rising in harmonious union. It was true, hope had a power of its own. They were standing together, rejecting bitterness, embracing a future filled with sweetness. A familiar face emerged from the crowd. Greg coming forward, worn but bewildered, caught up in the tide of warmth and possibility. Jack, he started, uncertainty in his tone as he took in the scene. Jack met his gaze, sensing the hesitation in Greg's expression. Together, we can make a difference. We can reshape our company's impact. Join us. Greg hesitated, but a flicker of understanding sparked within his eyes. Are you sure this is the right way? Sharing joy and love for our communities is the only way, Jack affirmed passionately. It's not just about profits anymore, it's about what we can create together. As the crowd's energy surged, Greg took a deep breath, finally stepping forward. With that, the dam broke, and the outpouring of support grew, uniting everyone present in a singular mission to uplift their community. In that moment, Jack understood that the victory wasn't just about standing up to the corporate giants or arguing over profits, it was about building a beautiful world for the next generation. With Lily's hand still in his, he realized they had the power to carve out joy in the midst of turmoil, a candy-coated promise of hope, fueled by love. And as the unity deepened, Jack knew this was just the beginning. They were ready to take on the challenges ahead and ensure no one would ever have to fight alone again. From that day on, the world outside Reynolds Corp began to change, one dream at a time, with Lily's sign probably still standing at the forefront. Marry me. An invitation to love, unity, and a better life for everyone. Remember, if you want to be part of this journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment below your thoughts and feelings about this incredible ending. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel.